So Mike, thank you so much for joining us for this very important conversation. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's just start out, for anyone who hasn't looked you up on the internet or doesn't already know you personally in some way, shape, or form, tell us a little bit about who you are, maybe what part of Maine you're from, just your general background.
Well, I'm a Gardner boy,
Yeah.
from Gardner originally. That's where I grew up, went to Gardner High School. Shortly after, enlisted in the Marine Corps.
Okay.
Served at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I loved being a United States Marine.
Yeah.
And when I got out of the Marine Corps, I used the GI Bill to go to the University of Maine in Machias, down east.
Okay.
And then started a couple of small businesses. Liked that very much, enjoyed it. A fitness equipment company, and then Pirates Cove Tavern in Augusta. That was a lot of fun to do those.
Okay.
Then I chased a dream and followed it all the way down to New York City in film and television and acting.
Okay.
And I enjoyed that very much.
Yeah.
And then that all changed in September of 2001 when our nation was attacked.
Right.
And
So tell us how that changed your course.
that's how that changed the course a lot.
Yeah.
And I went to the Midtown North Police Precinct, volunteered to go down, leaned on my Marine Corps training, went in and spent most of the first 72 hours down there on the rescue teams. When that was over, we started filming again on the shows about 6 months later.
Okay.
Got the career back, moved back to Maine in 2011. I now live in Phillips, just the other side of the other side of Farmington, heading towards Rangeley, and I serve in the United States, in the Maine State Legislature in the 73rd District, which is one of the largest districts in the state.
So that's a perfect segue. So let's talk a little bit more. You have a very varied background in terms of your life experience, which is neat. Let's talk a little bit more about your political work and kind of what your qualifications are in that regard.
Well, I serve on two committees down there. I serve on Labor and Housing and Environment and Natural Resource. I like both committees very much. I'm very deep into Environment and Natural Resource. They both take a lot of time. But I also deal with a lot of issues on my own. I spent 6 months working on the EV mandate issue before I finally was able to get that killed through not only working with the Board of Environmental Protection and the Department of Environmental Protection, but also working in the committee to bring my bill forward to put an end to it. I got through a bill for responsible mining of lithium, another amendment to save our redemption centers, which were failing badly. I've been able to champion some real solid legislation, and working in a Democrat-controlled environment, it's hard, but you need to fight. Dig your heels in, fight. When you find a roadblock, pivot, go a different way, but keep on mission and get the job accomplished.
How do you also hopefully working in a bipartisan fashion and also fostering cooperation, because that's not something we see a lot at the national level these days.
That was very important with the EV mandate. If it hadn't been for, and I'll say this, being a Republican, if it had not been for President Troy Jackson and Speaker Talbot Ross, I would not have got that done. I had multiple meetings with them just to get it through our legislative council process because it was an after-session bill. That I needed their help to do that, and they did that. And then they stepped up after 4 meetings with each one individually and co-sponsored the legislation for me. That was huge. I don't know of another bill Republican bill that's happened on, and that got it under the hammer. That sent it straight through, and we put an end to that EV mandate.
Well, so let's talk a little bit about what makes you qualified to represent the 2nd District of Maine in the U.S. Congress, and then what sets you apart from your candidate, from the other Republican challenger, Austin Terrio. So starting with, what you feel makes you qualified to serve now in the United States Congress.
Life experience, no question about that. I've had enough life experience that I've been able to have my successes and failures, my wins and losses, my fall downs and got knockdowns. That all builds character, and that all builds determination. So I know how to deal with strong issues that come my way. I know how to find my way through them. What differentiates me from my opponent? I have a 100% conservative voting record on the floor of the House, as rated by the conservative union CPAC. My opponent, 60th out of 61. The most liberal Democrat-aligned voting record on the floor. That's one of the biggest differences between the two of us. We're nowhere near alike. We're miles apart age-wise. And most of what I've accomplished has been, a lot of it was before he was even born. So, it's just a big difference between the two of us.
And so then moving on, why then do you feel that you're a better candidate to serve the 2nd District than the current incumbent, Jared Golden? Let's talk about some differences there.
Well, Jared, I have a lot of respect for Jared Golden. He served our nation in the Marine Corps. He's a fellow vet, and I respect his service and appreciate his service, and congratulate him on his new addition to his family, by the way. But we're different in ideology. We have a lot of similar things, but we're different that way. He voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the Green New Deal spending bill, and we've seen what that's doing right now to our electrical costs around the state here in Maine with the wind and the solar that's there. I am in favor of wind and solar. If you like it, put it on your house. And that's the only way I see that. He voted for DC statehood, which I disagree with completely. That would have put 2 more Democrat senators in DC, and that was very partisan to do that. There's a long litany of things. His stance on the AR issue, on gun rights. I have a rating from the Gun Owners of America. He has an F. We're not the same, even though we have similarities in our background. I'm looking very much forward to debating him.
Okay. All right, so let's move to the issues, and we'll start at the state level. And this is just kind of a general question. What do you feel are the most pressing issues facing the state of Maine, and how will you work to address each of them?
Well, it would be addressing them from a congressional level. So it would be addressing them from DC.
Yep.
And when you're in that position, one of the first things I did was I did the research on what the job is of a congressman.
Yeah.
You serve on your committees, of course. You propose amendments. You propose legislation and resolutions. You have your constituent services. And constituent services is very important to me. People need to know that they're taken care of and someone's got their back. Right now, it's the economy. People talk about the border. Of course we want to seal the border. We want to make the border secure. But I believe that regardless of how secure we seal that border, they're going to find a way in here. And we're going to have to deal with that. The economy is number one on everyone's mind. The prices are going through the roof. Everything is so expensive now. Fuel is starting to go back again. I paid $3.70 for it the other day. So, oh my gosh, come on. My electric bill has doubled. Food prices have gone up. That is the most important thing to people right now is, the economy and what's happening with that. Electricity is another big one. Of course, you want to say freedom. You want to say the deficit. You want to say all the big things. I want to build the wall. Well, you can't do that. You have to pick the fights you can win and join the ones that you can help in.
Okay. So let's talk about your position, again, looking at some maybe more local or state issues. Let's talk about your position on decriminalizing drugs. That's been a proposal, and safe injection sites. This is definitely, a hot button topic. What is your particular ideology on those types of proposals?
I was extremely disappointed to read that the state of Maine had pretty much decriminalized, made them a civil penalty, fentanyl, heroin, cocaine, opioids. I think that is a very bad way to go. Safe injection sites, I voted against that. My opponent is in favor of that. And we can't seem to get him to answer why he's in favor of fentanyl as a recreational drug. That's always a pivot to the border or something. But that is not the answer to drug addiction at all. That answer is abstinence and treatment is what that is.
Okay. Moving on now, if you're done addressing that issue. Okay, moving on to gun control and gun rights. After the mass shooting in Lewiston, Austin Terrio had voiced thoughts that what happened there is a mental health issue, and he opposed the new law that Governor Mills had just enacted. What are your views on that issue, and what would you do to support your view in Congress? I was
in Lewiston that day, and earlier that morning, that just shook everyone right to the core. Unfortunately, that is a tragedy. But putting everyone in the same basket, whether it's in a mental health basket or whether it's in a gun control or gun rights basket, is a bad idea. We're not all the same person. We're not all Andrew Card. There's been discussions that it was a mental health issue with him, an anger issue with him. I've heard a lot of stories, a lot of them. There was communication problems between the military and local authorities with him. There were communication problems with local authorities. I've heard every story there is in the book about this guy. And the main thing that we have to take from that is that everyone's rights are sacred, not just Andrew Card's. And we need to make sure that we protect gun owners. I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. Shall not be infringed means exactly that. And the 72-hour waiting period, we're going through that fight right now. We've got gun owners, gun shows. They're going to be shut down. It's going to cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax revenue in our state. So we're dealing with it on a number of issues. We're talking earlier, you and I off camera, about Dorothea Dix and Riverview. We need more funding for those facilities so they can have more beds available, so they can have more staff available and the equipment that they need to make sure that we can take anybody that has a mental problem or psychological problem, instead of putting them in a hospital or in a jail cell to wait until there's a room, we need to be able to transition them straight into where they can get help.
Okay. All right, so, and we want to just make a note that the Lewiston gunman was Robert Card.
Robert Card.
So we just want to make sure that
Card.
we have that right. All right, as far as your position on wind farms, transitioning to a different sort of state topic with national ramifications, your position on wind farms in ocean waters, good idea, bad idea, infringement on, Maine fisheries. We'll start with that.
Bad idea. I've been in a number of briefings on the wind port, and I didn't like it from the very beginning. I did a lot of research on that, and up and down the eastern seacoast, especially in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, they have, I think there are 10 of them that they're working through right now. One is already given up, that was New Bedford. Out of the 9 other ones, 6 of them are running into financial difficulties. When the subsidies run out, they can't sustain themselves. They're having trouble selling their energy off. They're having trouble with their contracts. And I just read a report that there have been in excess of 50 whales and dolphins that have died up and down the East Coast since the first of the year. So offshore wind, I don't think it's viable. I voted against the project on Sears Island, specifically because I do not believe the wind port or the wind array out there is viable. They did move it from LMA1, the lobster management area, and our major fishing grounds to the east, moved it south as a little bit of an appeasement, but it still is going to be a problem. As far as the wind farm goes, up north, Aroostook County, King Pine, that is a project that I did not vote for. I didn't like it. My opponent did vote for it. It's 92% foreign owned. This is American energy on Maine soil. 92% owned by foreign entities. I think it's 80% New Zealand, 2 different companies, 40% each, and the other one I think is Australia. Even the Kiwi pension is involved in that. So that is American energy being foreign owned, and they're going to use eminent domain to build a transmission corridor down through the center of our state so that they can feed into the New England grid. Once again, I voted against that project and I voted against eminent domain. My opponent voted for both.
You had previously mentioned the impact to the environment and to wildlife, so a follow-up to the wind farm issue, talking about do you support Maine fishermen in their fight against the proposed regulations from NOAA, which are on hold right now, but the proposed regulations against the lobster fishery from NOAA on the right whale issue?
I would support the whales, of course, 100%. I'm not familiar enough with it to be able to give you a really solid answer on that. Okay. But I support our fishermen, of course I do. These are main jobs, and our right whales, it was the lobster traps and those little teeny lines that were the problem and why we kicked them out of the Gulf. Now you've got cables that they want to put in there that are big around almost as a car. It just doesn't make sense in what they're doing. So I wholeheartedly support our lobstermen and our fishermen.
Okay. Let's segue to looking at some national issues that, of course, have been top of mind lately. Yeah. Since you seek to serve in the U.S. Congress, these are issues that you'll certainly come up against. So let's take a look at a few of them. Reproductive rights, certainly a central focus for many, and we saw the ramifications of that in the midterms. So especially since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So do you support, in theory, this doesn't have to be specific, but do you support, in theory, any kind of federal ban on abortion? If not, why? And if you do support any kind of federal ban, what would the ins and outs be as you would propose them?
What I can say about that is I am pro-life. I come from a very big family and a very poor family. Yeah. We started off very, very, very poor. Okay. We had 7 kids in 9 years. All 7 of us had 1 bedroom. And those were decisions that needed to be made way back then, and my parents went for life, and I support life completely. I've recently been given a 100% rating and an endorsement of the Parents' Rights in Education. I support our parents, I support our unborn, and I am pro-life.
Do you support any kind of exceptions to a federal ban, say in the case of preserving the life of the mother, if the life of the mother was in peril, or in the case of rape and incest? Do you support, exceptions to a federal ban, or are you somebody who feels like a federal ban is a federal ban?
I would have to take a look at the federal ban, look at the language, and see what I thought of it at the time. I haven't made a decision as far as federally. That's the first time I've been asked that question.
Okay.
So I would have to take a look and see exactly what the language said before I would determine what I need to, what my stance would be on that. The life of the mother comes up constantly. I'm asked that constant question all the time about that. And quite frankly, my answer a number of times has been, if I was a husband laying there, sitting beside my wife who's getting ready to give birth, and the doctor tells me, you have to decide between your unborn child and your wife, and I've got 3 little kids at home waiting for mommy to come home, I know what my personal decision would be. And I would not take I would not take the mother away from my children.
Understood.
That's what I would do.
Understood. We appreciate your candor on that. And a follow-up to that, there's also been conversations about women seeking abortion care or clinicians who provide it being prosecuted or penalized in some way. So would you support any legislation that sought to legally penalize women seeking abortion care if there was a federal ban or a state ban, or the clinicians that provide it?
There again, I don't know enough about that issue. I would
Okay.
have to do more research and more investigation on that issue and see what the language was in order to take a look at that. I'm open-minded. I think that everything has value in looking at. What I agree with and what I don't agree with depends wholeheartedly on what's in the language. I've learned that down in Augusta, that you really need to look into issues deeply in order to find the root of the issue and be able to find the root of your emotions in it.
Okay. Let's move now to the global stage, specifically some of the conflicts ongoing. The United States currently supporting allies in Israel, supporting Ukraine's fight, and then also supporting Taiwan as well. In terms of supporting, continuing to provide those countries with assistance, where do you stand on continuing to provide aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, aid to Taiwan?
I was relieved to see, in a way, yesterday, with Hamas agreeing to the ceasefire. The Israeli ground forces were getting ready to go into Jaffa, and that's where their leadership is. No wonder they surrendered, and said, we're going to give up and we'll negotiate. But you got to remember, back in October, they did the same thing as well, and that didn't last very long. This may just be a way for them to sneak out the back door, regroup, and then go at it again. You got to remember, these are men that plotted, planned, and schemed behind closed doors to murder, rape, and kidnap women and children. They can't be trusted. Right. I didn't agree with Mike Johnson on the aid to Israel. I am all for Israel having the right to defend herself. I am. But that bill wasn't the right way to do it. Okay. That had $9 billion in aid for Gaza, which was going to go straight to Hamas, in my opinion. So we're funding Israel. We're funding Hamas. Who's going to win in that fight? The military-industrial complex was going to win, and a lot of people were going to die. Okay. Just how much are we going to have to give to Ukraine? We've given them almost, $250 billion now? How much is too much? We need to find what that ceiling is. How much is too much? Okay.
And did you have thoughts on Taiwan?
Taiwan, not really. Okay. I mean, protection from China, yes, sure. TikTok was the other side of that. I think they threw that in there just to kind of take everyone's minds away from, the big dollar amounts, to be honest with you. But I don't know enough about the situation and the boots on the ground in Taiwan. It hasn't been that out in the atmosphere like Ukraine and Israel have.
Yes, that's true for sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Let's talk about one of the other issues going on, and this isn't a military issue, but certainly one that's generated a lot of conversation. One of the presidential candidates this year, former President Trump, contends that presidents should be immune from prosecution for criminal behavior while in office. Do you agree with that conceptually? What do you think would be the effect on the American judicial system and the country overall if such an idea would be, put in stone, that presidents can't be prosecuted for criminal behavior? Yeah.
Well, I believe that issue's come up because it is Donald J. Trump. We haven't seen it before, criminal prosecution that I'm aware of. I believe that while the president is in office, he is immune from that stuff, unless it's egregious. I mean, you walk up and shoot somebody, that's one thing. But for what they're trying to do to him right now, I'm very disappointed with the route that they're going with my president. I've been a fan of Donald Trump for 40 years. My campaign team and I are going to do anything we can to help him get elected. But I think they're going way too far with this right now, and it's being done because of political pressure and because of the upcoming election. If Donald Trump was not running for office right now, they wouldn't be going anywhere near him for any of this. So it's a political move.
But when he asserts that he should be immune from criminal prosecution, like this isn't something that someone else cooked up, it's something that he himself has said should be the case. So what I'm just asking is, do you agree with that ideologically?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Looking at immigration, you had previously alluded to the southern border, so let's return there for just a moment. How would you address the crisis at the southern border, either in legislation that you were to draft or simply support? How would you address the crisis at the southern border? And as a caveat to that, what role should the state of Maine play in the immigration crisis? So let's just talk about your view on the southern border first.
Well, the southern border and the northern border, they are connected. We need to defend both of them vigorously. The southern border, I think I had said earlier, I believe that even if the wall was completely built, and I believe we need to finish the wall, and I believe that if the wall was built, they're still going to find a way to come in here. We need to put more assets and more resources into the immigration onslaught that we're facing right now. These are now economic migrants. They're not coming here because they're escaping persecution, death, or anything like that. They're coming here to have a better life. A lot of people say it's because we need workers in America. Okay, if we get rid of the drugs and we start getting people off from the government dime and get them back to work, I think that can make a substantial difference there. So I think we need to take care of our drug problem. I think that's one of the worst things that we have going right now. We have trafficking, that human trafficking that's coming across the border. The amount of fentanyl coming into our country is unbelievable. If it was, I don't know exactly what the overall solution is to it. For me, when I get down to Washington, D.C., I would have to take a look and see what bills are in process, what's in place. You gotta understand, when you get down there, there's senators, there's a ton of people who are already down there. They have legislation in the works. So to say I'm gonna put in a bill to fix the border, that might be the case.
Right. But
first you need to get in there and you need to find out what the lay of the land is. Who's doing what and what they have out there for fights you can join before you pick one.
Okay. Another issue that is always close to our hearts is taxes. Always a joy.
Love the tax man.
Always a joy,
Love
yes.
the tax man.
All right. In your view, are wealthy Mainers and wealthy Americans overall currently paying their fair share of taxes?
Last year we had a bill that came in which was an act to phase out state income tax. I did a lot of research on that bill, and I looked at all the revenue streams that we have coming in. We have enough revenue streams with our deficit, with the money that's coming in, and our I'm not saying deficit. Leftover money after the budget.
Surplus.
Surplus. There we go. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And a surplus.
Yeah.
We're going to have nearly $1 billion surplus. And plus, with all the money that's coming in from the different streams that we have more than enough money. We don't need to keep taxing on state income tax. I voted to phase out state income tax. My opponent was one of the very few that voted to continue taxing Mainers. So I believe the tax code is fair. I believe it's just, and I believe that we need to get rid of state income tax in Maine.
Okay. All right. So that was, just to be clear, so you feel the tax code as written with the current structures in place is just?
Yes.
Is okay. All right. Just wanted to clarify there. So let's sort of wrapping up, and we have about 5 minutes left. Okay. What should people focus on as they consider who to elect to serve in Maine's 2nd Congressional District?
Definitely the voting record. Like I said earlier, that's incredibly important. I have the -- conservative voting record. My opponent voted to decriminalize prostitution, voted for safe injection sites, was the only Republican that joined a bill last year to spend $6 million in state tax money on public art. That list goes on and on. Take a solid look at the voting records. And also keep in mind, it's going to take a Marine to beat Jared Golden. It's going to take a military veteran to defeat him. CD2 Maine has the highest per capita military veteran and veteran-aligned families in the nation. We're made up pretty much one-third, 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 Democrat, Republican, Independents. Those numbers vary a little bit, but not by a lot. Jared Golden gets the military vote because he's a veteran. I'm a member of the American Legion. I deal with my brother and sister veteran issues down at Togus, and a lot of them Republicans. I'm a Republican. I voted for Jared. He's a vet. You know, so it's going to take another veteran to defeat him, and I believe that I'm the guy to do that, and that we can, as a Republican Party, get to 51% on election night and go right past ranked choice voting.
Okay. Final thoughts on why people should support you, and also take this opportunity, if there's something you wanted to touch on that we haven't touched on yet, feel free to do so now, and then just some final thoughts on why you feel folks should support you in this race.
Well, I appreciate that very much, and thank you for the time here today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
The hot seat's always the hot seat.
It is. It is indeed.
It is. It's quick on your feet.
Yeah.
And I'm a good man. I'm an honest man. I work hard, and I'm an up at 4 o'clock, bed at 8 o'clock guy.
Yeah.
And my day starts at 4 o'clock. And I work on issues, and that's all I do is work on issues. I have my fingers in a lot of pies down there. Right now, the illegal Chinese marijuana issue is hot on my plate right now, and I'm working hard on that. So there are a lot of issues that I just dig my teeth into. I'm a hard worker, and as I said, Marine vet, it's going to take a vet to beat Jared Golden. I have the best record on the floor of the House.
Okay. I'm told we have 2 minutes left. I'm going to give them to you if you have anything else you'd like to add.
Just going on with that, moving on with that. I've been in the Republican Party for decades. My ideologies is based in my Christian values and my conservative posture. My opponent's been in the Republican Party for months. That's it. Was going to join the Democrat Party beforehand. So we're two completely different people as far as that goes. I serve on the Franklin County Republican Committee. I'm the committee man for the committee with a voice and a vote on state level issues. So my roots are deep in the Republican Party.
All right. Well, we can't thank you enough for coming in and spending some time with us. We so appreciate it. It's certainly a big election coming up.
It is.
And so again, we thank you for your time today, Mr. Sobolewski.
Thank you very much.
All right. That concludes our Conversations with the Candidates special. We hope it gave you important insight as to who each candidate is, helping you make a more informed decision when you head to the polls.
We hope you'll join us for our Maine Decides primary election coverage on primary day. That's June 11th. Thank you for watching, everyone.
And as always, we'll see you for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News each night. Good night, everyone.